Shirley loved me for 10 years, bothered me for 10 years, and harassed me for 10 years. In the end, at my wedding, she died, saying she would stain it red with her blood so I'd never forget her. After she passed, her diary was made public. Every word was filled with her affection for me. The internet exploded, accusing and insulting me. They said I let her down and called me a playboy. I got cyberbullied, framed by competitors, and had contracts canceled by partners. Shareholders held me accountable. My wife terminated her pregnancy and left me. But who knew that I had only saved Shirley from some punks when she was 17? We never had a romantic relationship. Why should I spend the rest of my life paying for her one-sided selfish love? Lying in the snow, I closed my eyes. If there's a next life, I'd never save her. When the teacher brought a fragile-looking girl into class, I knew drama was about to unfold. Sure enough, the teacher introduced Shirley as a transfer from S school. I overheard whispers. Apparently, she was bullied at S school, which forced her to transfer. It got so bad, 2 students were expelled from S school. The teacher scanned the room and said to Shirley, "You can sit next to Gary. He's a top student. He can help you out if you need." Shirley moved a small desk next to mine right up close. "Hey Gary," she greeted me softly, eyes on my pen. "Nice pen you have, Gary. Is that gold?" I pretended not to hear. Back then, I thought she was just admiring it because she came from a poor family and hadn't seen one before. But if that were true, nobody else had noticed my pen was gold in over a year. Maybe that pen was why she latched onto me, never letting go until the end. During break, she approached me with a few questions. "Gary, how do you solve these problems?" She seemed pitiful, looking at me with watery eyes. I took a deep breath and said, "We all pay the same tuition. If you don't get it, ask the teacher. Your family isn't paying me to tutor you." She froze, holding her papers tightly, looked like she was about to cry. In my past life, I fell for that, helping her with lessons, patiently going over problems. In the end, I went to a university and she went to a city to follow me, attending a vocational school there. Her parents hated me for this, accusing me of seducing their daughter and insisted I take responsibility. But that wasn't all. When I started dating someone at a university, she barged into my home, did my laundry, and lay in my bed naked in front of my girlfriend. She knelt before my girlfriend and pleaded, "You have everything. Why are you taking Gary away from me? Please give Gary back. He's all I have." Then she wrote a heartfelt essay, posting it online with a video. She said I was her salvation, that she had nothing without me. To follow me, she left a good university for a vocational school. But I, heartless, fell for someone else. She begged, "Return Gary to me." I didn't know when I became an object. My girlfriend slapped me, called me a jerk, and told me to sort out my love life. No matter how much I explained, it was useless. Because I rejected Shirley, she cried through a whole class. When the teacher inquired, she just looked at me pitifully. I went to the office requesting a new seat arrangement. The teacher encouraged me to help, saying, "She's had it rough, bullied at her old school and neglected at home. Help if you can." I refused, saying I was too stressed in senior year with no time to help others. If I couldn't switch seats, I'd ask my parents to switch classes or schools. With my firm stance, the teacher moved Shirley's seat to the window on the left. Yet during break, she acted up again. She knelt before me, sobbing, "I'm sorry, Gary. I just wanted help with my homework. My family is poor. My grandparents favor boys over girls. If I don't get into college, all I can do is factory work or get married." In my past life, I'd be flustered, rushing to help her up. This life, I stood tall, watching her kneel as classmates looked on. As more people gathered, I loudly said, "Shirley, first, we're not close. I have no obligation to tutor you. Second, using this to gain attention is emotional manipulation. Your personal issues are not my concern. Don't moralistically guilt-trip others." As soon as I finished, someone yelled, "Gary, aren't you full of yourself? Just because you're smart and come from money, you think you can look down on people? Making a girl kneel gives you pride? You accuse her of using morals to bind you. You're just pretentious." I looked up, seeing Tom aggressively confronting me. Why don't you sit with her? I smirked. Though you can't tutor her, you might offer emotional support. Tom and I never got along. In my last life, he set me up in business, always scheming. Shirley, sit with me, Tom called out, provoked. Shirley glanced at me timidly, then moved her desk beside Tom. I quietly sighed in relief. Hopefully, he and Shirley can stay together this time. I knew Tom had liked Shirley since he first saw her. But back then, the teacher paired her with me, and I thought she was a victim in need. Guys, it seems, have an instinct to protect girls. At first, Shirley still found ways to bother me. Between classes, she'd tidy my desk or fetch balls and water when I played basketball. I kept a stern face, never acknowledging her efforts. After a week of chaos, I finally went to the teacher's office. Yeah, I did it on purpose. In high school, dating was strictly forbidden. But as long as it didn't affect academics, teachers would turn a blind eye. They understood. Who hasn't been a little wild in their youth? However, if someone alerted a teacher to handle a student causing a disturbance, it became a different story. So, Shirley got called into the teacher's office for a serious talk. When she came out, her face was red, and she cried at her desk. Tom couldn't stand it and tried comforting her gently for a long time. After school, Tom and Shirley stopped me at the school entrance. Gary, is this funny to you? Tom acted all heroic. Even his acne seemed redder under the setting sun. I chuckled and asked Tom, if you like Shirley, go for it. Why do you care what I'm doing? Today, I had specifically called my home to get picked up. My mom always said that even though we had some money, I should keep a low profile at school to avoid unnecessary trouble. So usually, I rode my bike to school. But seeing the driver open the Mercedes door for me, Shirley's eyes were red with a hint of envy as I got in. Tom tried to stop me. While sitting inside, I asked, "What's up, Tom? If you want a date, go ahead. I just want to study." "No," Tom exclaimed. "Gary, you know Shirley was kicked out of S-school by some bullies. She's new here and they're still after her. You're the school's Sonda champ. Could you help walk her home?" Tom pressed on. "Can you just watch as those jerks from S-school bully our classmate? This isn't about dating." He looked so serious and filled with justice. Then he disregarded my objection and called out, "Shirley, get in the car. Gary's got a ride." Shirley tried to get in. I stopped her. "Shirley, I don't want to take you home. Let Tom do it." I added, "I've got other things, not gonna play along." As I got in and slammed the door, I told the driver to go. In my past life, I never really got why Shirley clung to me so relentlessly. Until I died. I realized she was like someone born knowing too much, smart and precocious. She used her words to manipulate, playing the victim while committing emotional crimes in the name of love. I was her only step to elevate her status. By attaching to me, manipulating me, she believed she could have it all. She'd stop at nothing, even sacrificing her life if she couldn't succeed. She's a psycho. If she can't have it, she would destroy her opposition. Today, it's a special day for both of us. According to my old memories, tonight Shirley would face trouble. Before, she looked pitiful, telling me her school bullies wouldn't let her go. Asked if I could walk her home. I was young and naive, so naturally, I didn't hesitate. That day, she deliberately took me down a wrong path. It was a dingy alley in an urban village, no cameras, sketchy locals. A group of thugs came out, thought because she was pretty, they could do as they pleased. Of course, I wouldn't stand for it. Fought back, ended up hurt, blood was shed, cops got called. Afterward, she saw me as a hero, the school even honored me. At first, I was proud, thought I was a hero doing the right thing. Took dying for me to figure it out. It was all part of Shirley's plan, her strategy to get closer to me, a damsel in distress. So this time, I stirred things up, got the teacher to talk to her so she'd go running to Tom. What happens next, I don't know. I'm living in a new timeline, and things will change with my influence. After I got home, I breathed a sigh of relief. Just in case, I turned off my phone and studied. At 11 p.m., I turned my phone back on and entered the class group chat. It was exploding with 999 plus messages. I started scrolling and then smiled. Seems like I dodged a bullet this life. Shirley had been reprimanded by the teacher. Upset, she turned to Tom for comfort. Tom probably planned to confront me, trying to use moral high ground to make me take Shirley home. I bet the script was Shirley's idea. But I was firm and left. Everything was set, her lies were ready. Tom offered to take her home himself. Dusk in that alley up against 5 sketchy guys. Tom tried to fight back, told Shirley to call the cops. Except she didn't. She claimed she didn't have a phone. Said school's policy was no phones and her parents didn't get her one. In the end, Tom was stabbed 3 times in the abdomen. Whether he survives, who knows? After being found and taken to the hospital, they called the cops. Shirley's still MIA. The group chat's a mess, but it's not my problem anymore. It's the weekend, no school tomorrow. Lucky for me. Just when I thought I was free of this mess. In the wee morning hours, barely sleeping, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I got a call from the police station. They asked if I could drop by as there was a case that needed my cooperation in the investigation. I glanced at my phone. It was 4 a.m. I agreed without hesitation. My past life experiences taught me something about Shirley. She seems like a delicate flower, harmless and gentle. But the truth is, she's more like a parasitic plant. Once she latches on, she drains you dry, never letting go. So I immediately contacted my lawyer. I also called the private detective I had hired. In my previous life, I died unjustly and tragically. After being reborn, I hired a detective to investigate everything about Shirley. Gary, things are a bit messy, the detective said. While changing clothes, I asked what's going on. The students at S High School never bullied Shirley. She was the one who dunked her own head in the toilet and scratched herself with a knife, then blamed those students. I couldn't hide my shock and asked, "You mean she did it to herself?" "Self-scripted, self-directed, self-acted." He replied. This detective I hired was dedicated and meticulous in gathering all the information about Shirley, including her family situation and the truth behind the alleged bullying. Just yesterday, he got in touch with those so-called bullies from S High School. The leader is Joy, the granddaughter of the vice principal. She's pretty, smart, and the family favorite, always scoring in the top 3 of the school. Naturally, she got a spot in a top university. But Shirley insisted that Joy got it through connections and shouldn't have been admitted directly, so she stirred up trouble among students. Shirley and Joy never got along and had an argument in the restroom. Then the supposed bullying happened. Shirley claimed that Joy and others blocked her in the girls' restroom, dunked her head in the toilet, cut her hair, stripped her clothes, and used a knife to scratch her face. She was covered in a mix of urine and blood when she ran to the principal's office, begging for help. All the teachers were shocked. S High is a top school, known for its strict discipline. How could something so horrific happen? The poor vice principal became the target of outrage, yelled at endlessly. In anger, he went home and gave his granddaughter a severe beating. Joy felt more wronged than anyone. It was Shirley, not her, who started the trouble. Now, her grandpa beat her up, and the entire school labeled her a bully. Teachers looked at her differently. Classmates avoided, ignored, or even insulted her. She was just a 17-year-old girl, always pampered and never faced such things. She couldn't even dare to go to school, hid at home, fearing sunlight and human voices, already depressed by the ordeal. Pressured and scolded by her grandpa, she finally admitted that she didn't bully Shirley. Shirley dunked her own head. Joy tried to defend herself, but who would believe her? Everyone thought, "Joy, are you serious? Shirley did all that to herself?" That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. A bully is a bully, and you're slandering people? They supported Shirley and wanted the bully expelled from school. Even walking outside, people threw trash at her. The vice principal wept bitterly, believing in his granddaughter's innocence. But who else believed? People naturally side with the weak and despise authority. The vice principal is quite relentless too. His innocent granddaughter got punished, lost the scholarship, and suffered depression. Shirley was something he couldn't tolerate, so he used all his power to send her to our school. Gary, it sounds absurd, but I believe 90% is true. The detective's voice came through the phone. Today, Shirley told Tom that Joy found some schoolboys to beat her up on the road. But Shirley avoided that route, took a detour through an alley. Now she's reported you, Gary, for attempting to assault her. Never-ending trouble. I knew what Shirley was up to. Even if it cost her everything, she wanted to tie herself to me, harass me, and push me into marrying her. In my previous life, she used every method, no matter how dirty, to bind herself to me under the guise of love. I instructed the detective to keep an eye on her. Then, dressed and ready, I headed for the station. Immediately, a female officer with a stern face led me toward the interrogation room. In my past life, I graduated from a university and held high positions for years. So I spoke up, "Officer, I'm here to cooperate, not as a suspect. You should take me to the guest room, not the interrogation room." The officer wasn't pleased, snapped, "Just get in. Why all the fuss? Still so unruly at such a young age?" I realized she must have preconceived notions. After all, Shirley is great at playing the victim. Even a vice principal fell for it, so I couldn't expect much from a new officer with a strong sense of justice. "Officer, if that's the case, I won't say anything more. My lawyer is on the way." With that, I didn't speak further. Luckily, a seasoned officer came and invited me to a guest room. He explained that Shirley accused me of assault and arranging others to harm her. I truly didn't understand what's going on in Shirley's mind. In my last life, I saved her out of goodwill, only to be harassed by her for a lifetime. She died at my wedding, causing my new wife to lose our baby. I was 29 that year, and the child represented my hopes for the future and the love of two families. But because of Shirley, they were never realized. My wife, suffering from the aftermath, couldn't have children again, losing the chance of motherhood, living with regret. In this life, I rejected her from the start. Yet she still uses these despicable means to harass me? I detailed yesterday's events to the officer. Anyone directing others to do bad deeds will leave traces. There are surveillance cameras everywhere nowadays you can check. I had no interest in her. She kept harassing me. If a man harasses a woman, it's called sexual harassment. When a woman harasses a man, isn't it the same? Shortly after I arrived at the police station, my lawyer showed up too. I was home all night with security cameras in the community and at my door. So Shirley's attempt to frame me won't work. She's pulling the same stunt as before, using her innocence as bait to stay tied to me. If anyone brings it up, it's going to be all about her and me. Then, she'll clear it up, looking pitiful, saying, "I just loved him too much while kneeling and begging." It was her go-to line in the past. In the name of love, every sin seems forgivable. Right after I left the police station, I called a paparazzo and gave him some instructions. Then, I popped into the class group chat and tagged Shirley. "Shirley, you okay?" That's all I said before going back to lurking. It's Sunday, and the group chat for our class is buzzing. High school's dull routine suddenly gets a bit spicy. Everyone's whispering, while close friends created little subgroups, gossiping about the whole Shirley got assaulted thing. "Did you hear? Shirley got raped. 3 guys, they did it all. My God, I'm just a kid. What am I even hearing?" High schoolers have wild imaginations, leading to all sorts of racy story versions. They talk like they've seen it all firsthand. Come Monday, the news of high school girl Shirley being assaulted hit social media trends. In my past life, I was cyberbullied, which tanked my company's stocks. This time, I made sure Shirley got a taste of what it's like to be cyberbullied. She loves playing the victim, so let her have it. Makes our tie in 2 lifetimes worth it. A week later, Tom got out of the hospital. Just like before, the school held a ceremony to commend him because he tried to save Shirley, even though he failed. Tom's just a fool. Or maybe he's just duped by Shirley. He had the nerve to say in front of the whole school that Shirley reached out to me for help when she knew trouble was coming for her. But I said no. We've never been on good terms. I know he just used it to try and smear me, make me the bad guy. Sure enough. When Tom said that, everyone turned to stare at me. In my past life, I wouldn't have known how to handle it. This time, I just smiled and went on stage, grabbing the mic from Tom. "Hey everyone, teachers and students. Yeah, Shirley did mention someone was out to get her and wanted me to walk her home. But let me ask, how did she know thugs were after her? Planning to assault her? Does she know them? Did they give her a heads up? Even if that's the case, why on earth did she take a detour to a deserted alley if she was really in trouble? Teachers can check Shirley's address. Use GPS. Does it lead through the alley? It's a quick 20-minute bike ride from school to her place. We finished school at 4:20, but the incident occurred at 7:50 p.m. Curious what she and Tom were up to all that time. Even if they caught a movie, they should have taken the main road home. By the end, I sneered. Classmates, if in real trouble, helping each other is the right thing. But clearly, Shirley doesn't need help. She's just playing the victim. I know Joy from S-School, the bullying episode she talked about. Total lie, her own little drama. About this alley incident, who knows the truth? The audience buzzed. Shirley's apparent foreknowledge about the attack raised questions. These aren't my words but Tom's, making the ceremony take a different turn. Since Shirley reported it, the police needed to investigate. The online attention made local leaders take it seriously, pushing for a swift resolution. First, the physical exam showed Shirley wasn't assaulted. Next, police tracked down the suspect, her distant cousin, a thug named Harry. Harry was arrested and spilled everything. Shirley staged it all, aiming to court a rich guy. She promised Harry a reward when she became wealthy. A nod from a beauty like Shirley was enough for the 20-something troublemaker. Aligning with her plan, Tom ended up in the alley. The original intent was to frame me, but with my strategic delay and intervention with the class teacher, Shirley's plan failed. Tom was eager to help, though, and Shirley coaxed him into taking her home. At the alley, Harry mistook Tom for his target. Tom's attempts to fight back just provoked Harry, resulting in him getting injured. Luckily, Harry never intended serious harm and left Tom merely injured. Only after taking Shirley away did they realize they got the wrong guy. This whole case stunned even the seasoned cops. Harry faced the music for harming Tom, getting 2 years for battery. Shirley, the mastermind, got busted for false reporting and scheming but was given a lighter sentence due to her age, 6 months, suspended for a year. Basically, this let her finish high school, as cops didn't want her future tarnished by prison. But our school's parents weren't having it. The blown-up case made all parents vigilant, changing pickup routines for their daughters. The realization that Shirley orchestrated such chaos led to them demanding her expulsion. Simply put, parents declared that a student like Shirley had no place in school. The principal at our school was really frustrated too. Honestly, if it were a true victim, it'd be another story. But nope, it's someone like this, immediate expulsion. When Shirley found out she might get expelled, she cried. She got down on her knees, begged the principal for forgiveness, even knelt outside our classroom, tearfully pleading for everyone's forgiveness. She earnestly declared, "I really love Gary too much. The moment I saw him, I knew he was my forever. That's why I did all this. I just wanted him to notice me. I was wrong. You can hit me or scold me, I don't care. Please just give me a chance to keep studying. Give me a chance to take the college entrance exam. As long as the school doesn't expel me, I'll stand outside the classroom to listen. I absolutely won't disturb anyone." Some people felt sympathetic. Most people in this world are kind-hearted. They'd think, how much harm could a little girl have in mind? She just wanted a boy's love and attention. That's all. But our principal still expelled Shirley. Why? Because the bullying case at S High School came to light. Shirley probably never imagined that on that day. There was a girl sitting in the last stall of the bathroom, quietly chatting with her boyfriend online. Phones were strictly forbidden at school, as was dating. So, she recorded everything Shirley did but didn't have the guts to stand up against her. I get her point of view, it's not her problem, so she didn't want to deal with it. But then the scripted rape case Shirley cooked up went viral online. The attention was overwhelming. The girl couldn't hold it in any longer and came forward with the video to the principal. The students and teachers at S and our school were furious. Especially S High School, they felt like their intelligence was being insulted. S High didn't want a student like Shirley, and naturally, neither did we. Many teachers were outraged, saying they'd never seen anything so disgraceful in all their years teaching. With Shirley gone, I could breathe easier. Someone even asked me, "Shirley loves you so much. She did crazy things for you. Aren't you touched?" I sneered and asked back, "If a vicious dog took a liking to you, would you love it back?" They were speechless and walked away awkwardly. After all that drama, Shirley and her parents showed up at my house in the evening. Marriage proposal. Can you believe it? Shirley's shamelessness just reached a new low. Her mother wasn't much better. She had no reservations and told my mom, "My daughter did so much because of your son, and now her reputation's ruined, and she can't continue school. Shouldn't your son take responsibility?" Her dad, equally unreasonable, threatened my mom with violence if we didn't agree. I called the cops right away. The police educated them and warned Shirley that if she continued to harass me, she'd face arrest on multiple charges. Shirley put on a timid act and asked the officers, "Is it a crime to love someone?" The cops scoffed. Without all the nonsense and schemes, maybe they'd sympathize with her love. But with everything she'd done, her pitiful demeanor became something people despised. I enjoyed a peaceful week. Then Shirley set her sights on Tom, showing up at school a lot. Of course, she didn't forget to bother me. Right before winter break, she gave me a love letter, full of pictures and deep affection. She wrote that she was only pretending to date Tom as an excuse to come to school and see me. She said she was happy just seeing me from afar. She promised not to disturb me further, but she'd always be there for me. I was so grateful for her and her family. After thinking it over for a day, I handed the letter to Tom. Though we hadn't always been on good terms, our disagreements were just minor school stuff, no real beef. I smiled and said, "I've shown in every way I could that I have absolutely no interest in Shirley. You like her. Could you please ask her to stop bothering me? If she loves you, she should date you properly. After all, you took 3 stabs for her." I gestured a little. Nowadays, surgery's advanced. But if it weren't, Tom would have been in serious trouble from his injuries. Just like I expected, Tom was livid when he read the letter. He felt humiliated. Lately, he's been dealing with a lot of pressure. He got injured saving a girl in a righteous act, which should have been honorable. But if it was all a setup by Shirley for another guy, what does that make him? Since he and Shirley publicly dated at school, people mocked him even more. Some classmates who didn't get along with him were blunt, saying, "Picking up what Gary rejected. Who knows how many hands it's been in. I wouldn't even touch it." People pitted Shirley for her situation, but it's hard to feel sorry for someone so deceitful. Tom's reputation took a nosedive because of this relationship. And now this love letter ignites everything further. So Tom planned to meet Shirley in an alley and beat her up before breaking things off to end their twisted relationship just where it started. But the next day, the police came looking for him. Shirley had truly been attacked. Not only assaulted but left severely injured, found naked and barely alive. The hospital barely managed to save her life. She'd broken her spine and would be paralyzed for life. Tom straightforwardly admitted meeting her in the alley. He beat her to wrap things up from where it began, but he did not assault her. It turned out a fugitive passing through town committed the crime. That day, Tom coerced Shirley into the alley, beat her, and called her shameless, ripping off her coat before leaving. The wanted criminal saw that Shirley was pretty, and with the chaotic surroundings and no cameras, he had malicious intentions. Being a fugitive after doing such a shameless thing, he automatically planned to kill her to silence her. But Shirley's fate was tough. After being hit twice on the head with a brick, she actually tumbled down from the 2nd floor. At that time, the criminal thought she was dead, so he didn't bother to check. When I heard that Shirley broke her spine and was paralyzed for life, I realized that our paths would never cross again. I acted like I didn't hear anything. Shirley's parents really favored sons over daughters. After finding out she was paralyzed, they didn't want to pay her hospital bills. They took her back home, saying they were sending her back to her hometown. In reality, they abandoned her near a dump by the alley, leaving her to fend for herself. Ironically, an old man scavenging through the junkyard gave her some food to keep her barely alive. Using the fireworks as an excuse, I went to the dump. Shirley had frostbite on her hands, feet, and face. Since she couldn't move, her body also started to rot. When she saw me, she broke down and screamed at me. I walked over and just stared at her. After a long while, her emotions settled a bit, and she asked, "Gary, why don't you love me? Why, when all I wanted was to love you?" Was this her idea of effort? It was an effort in malice and wrongdoing. She was dying without the slightest remorse or self-reflection. I looked down at her and calmly said, "I came to tell you, you don't deserve to utter the word love. Don't use love to manipulate others. No one will pay for your cheap, sordid version of love." With that, I turned and left. In the distance, the fireworks lit up the sky, bright and dazzling.